Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope that all of you had a great week, and I hope that you are looking forward to a fantastic weekend filled with excitement, fun, and learning. Welcome Chayani, welcome to our chat moderator Carolina. Hi Baljit, good to see many students already in this class. This lesson is an IELTS reading class about economic crisis. Boy, when we designed this lesson, we weren't thinking about what was going to happen in 2022 globally, but definitely a good topic for the academic IELTS. This is a reading passage 3. For general IELTS students, this could be your section 3 of your general IELTS reading exam. Welcome, Sarah. Nice to have many of you here. Students, we will be reading today. Members, this is a members chat class, so we will be chatting. We will be going through the answers together with each other. And as per usual, this lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS. That's the place to be. For general IELTS, it's gieltshelp.com. These are the websites that we use to teach you effectively in these live classes and to help you get those high scores in your IELTS exam. This is our academic IELTS website here. We will be using this for today's reading. To join the premium package, as per usual, simply just click that big red button. I just put a box around that's above my head there. It's a one-time payment. So you just pay once, doesn't cost a lot. You don't need to worry about paying again and again. It's not subscription. We don't believe in that. It's one package. There isn't bronze, silver, gold, or anything like that. It's just one package. You get it all. You get all the practice exams, all the videos. And then, of course, we are an IDP affiliate. We're a British Council partner, and we're an official IELTS test registration center. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. Same idea. Simply just click this big red button there that's above my head, and you are off to the races with your learning. There's study plans included that you can follow. Students, you can use the discount code TARGET9 on the websites, and of course you can download our apps, Academic IELTS Help and General IELTS Help, from your app stores. And follow us on Instagram, IELTS_AEHelp, GIELTS Help, for lots of help with vocabulary, schedules for live classes, and so forth. If you have questions and you don't get an answer in the live class, just send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. That's my name, at aehelp.com. Anirban says, I've been learning touch typing and it's hard. Anirban, for touch typing, learning touch typing is so important. In fact, it's so important that I'm starting to teach my 6-year-old daughter touch typing, believe it or not. Like, I'm actually teaching her reading, writing, and touch typing simultaneously. And it's great. So learning to touch type, Anirban, super important skill, and one of the best and free pieces of software, Anirban, that I've discovered many years ago, fortunately, is called rapidtyping.com. Use that, Anirban. It's a great way to learn touch typing, English, and grammar for free. They're not our sponsors. We do not have any kind of a deal with them or anything. They have been around for a long time, and I don't know who it is, but just some amazing person decided to give this great piece of free software to the world. So rapidtyping.com, check it out if you haven't, okay? And even if some of you do know how to touch type, just using it to get even better with the symbols and numbers in your touch typing, it's super awesome. Thanks, Carolina, for putting that into the chat. So, yeah, and thanks for that comment on Airbon. It's a good one. Okay, everybody. So, again, this is a members chat class. Of course, everybody is welcome to watch. And to become a member, you can choose the right membership on the YouTube channel. Click the join button beside the subscribe button. We will have a subscribers chat class coming up in about 2 hours, and that will be a task 2 writing class, and then tomorrow we'll have lots of speaking part 2, speaking part 3, and then we'll have another reading class on Discord for Sunday. So that Discord class is this one here. Okay. And you can always check out our latest YouTube releases. Here's one for you here that I've just put into the chat. Let's get into some reading. So, students, without further ado, this is today's reading class right here. So, reading passage 3. And you can kind of see this picture here. It has to do with what looks like the stock market prices. I'm scared to look at the stock market prices these days. Okay. Yeah, Sarah, if you're suffering with writing, rapid typing, use it on your computer. I highly, highly recommend it. 20 minutes a day. 2 weeks, you're going to come back and say, hey, Adrian, whoa, that was really useful. So just 20 minutes a day. Follow it, no matter how painful it might seem at the beginning, and do it for 2 weeks, 20 minutes a day. I guarantee it's like the ultimate diet plan for writing. So it works awesome. So, okay, back to the point here, okay? So we have a picture. If you get a picture in your IELTS reading, that's great, okay? Pictures are worth 1,000 words. Right away, when I look at this picture and I can see American economic crisis, I can start to figure out that, okay, this reading passage will be related to the value of stocks, the value of money, changing value of money. It's the causes of the American economic crisis. So we can infer that the reader, or the writer here will discuss the reasons for difficult financial times in the US. Okay, and then my next step is what? So I look at the title, students, I visualize it, I picture it. So I imagine, you know, money, it's not worth as much, the price of bread is going up. And I ask what, why, how. So what does it mean? It means that people's money is not worth as much. Why? Because of inflation. There's too much money being printed. How? Oh, somebody's printing money. And then what do? So once I spent a few seconds, okay, because I know that many of you are worried that you only have 20 minutes for reading. So I know that, you're thinking, okay, I just have to search for the answers. No, you don't just have to search for the answers. That's not reading. That's searching for answers. You have to read, and you have to follow logic, and you have to understand most of what you read. Baljit, thank you for answering my question. So Baljit says, look at the questions, try to paraphrase them. Okay, sure, let's do that. So let's go to the questions. All right. Here we have some yes, no, not given questions. Should I read these questions? No, I should not read those questions because yes, no, not given questions don't give me extra help. In fact, it's a problem. They can confuse me. What if 3 of these questions are false and not given and only 1 is true? Then all I've done is read some false information, and that might actually make me confused while I'm reading the passage. So yeah, Chayani, Sarah, yeah, no, we don't read these. We just skip over them. Go to the next ones. Okay, so here we have complete each sentence with the correct ending. This is kind of like a multiple choice, right? So basically you have number 31 and then you have the choices and then you have to figure out which one goes on the end there. So this one is kind of useful. The choices, no, because we don't know what is the correct choice. But the statements, so this part here, this is useful. Okay, so we can read these. So banks have a responsibility to, right? Okay, so we know that something about banks and the bank's responsibility. Each bank is responsible for, all right, and a recession is started. So clearly we're going to have a definition for what is a recession. Okay, all right. Now, then here we have, let me make this a slight bigger. Let's see, can I make it even bigger for you? There, that's about as big as I can get without going out of the screen. So here we have a paragraph completion question. This is definitely useful to read before the passage because it's coming from the passage. So this is taken from the passage. So let's read this one. Okay. The American government's role, very important. Okay, so obviously something about the government with the economy. It is the American government which is arguably most responsible for the economic crisis. Ooh. In order to something properly, people must be sheltered from possible problems created by something. Regulation is required in any society in order to coerce people into acting for the benefit of. Government is in place to serve its citizens, and in this case, it failed. Apologists will say that the recession is just on the radar of American supremacy, while others say that such bumps on the road are of serious problems. Regulations is the solution to the problem, but the American something of independence and small government will be very difficult to crack. And then we've got some choices. We don't worry about those. And then we've got a multiple choice question. Which of the following phrases best describes the main aim of the reading passage? This question, we don't worry about the answers. Okay, so we don't need that. And this question also tells me an important point here. It tells me something that I have to do. This question 40, what does it tell me? What do I have to do to figure out the answer to this question? Which of the following phrases best describes the main aim of the reading passage? What does this tell me? This question, what do I need to do? What must I do to be able to answer this question? And it's just a clear reminder that skimming and scanning is not going to be an effective strategy. Yeah, masala, exactly. Read the whole, not paragraph, but read the whole passage, right? You can't summarize the main goal of the passage without reading the passage, right? You can't exactly skim read for the main goal of the whole passage. So just keep in mind, students, that this question, as well as this yes, no, not given question, basically remind you that if you want to get these answers right, you have to read. Okay, you can't really do a good job on this question set if you're just trying to skim read. It's not really possible. Okay, all right, so let's do that. Let's go and read. Let me get back to the start of this passage here. Causes of the American economic crisis, and we're going to do the reading. Let's do it with a British reader. Let's get used to that British accent, that lovely British accent. I can't, well, sometimes I can, but here we go. Okay, so what we do here is we go to our website, aehelp.com. We log into our My Student account, open up the audio CDs, and all I want you to do here, everybody, is just read the passage with the reader, okay? For a little bit of the reading, I will do a little read along to kind of give you an idea of this, okay? So here we go.
The causes of the American economic crisis. When discussing the causes of the late 2000s American subprime mortgage crisis, it is easy to lay all the blame on the banks, but it is incorrect to claim innocent the individual home buyers involved, as well as the American government as a whole. There are many instances in the years leading up to the crisis where moral obligations failed to be met. For the home buyers, it is a case of ignoring a scenario which was, upon deeper inspection, too good to be true. For the bankers, it was falling prey to their own laissez-faire loaning policies, lending without giving much interest to the mandates required of the borrower. For the government, it was instituting such a laissez-faire system in the first place, free of regulatory checks and balances. If a person falls prey to an email scam, the blame is deservedly placed on the hapless person. Society feels pity for them, but nobody feels the government should reimburse the individual for their lack of caution. The person in this scenario has affected no one but themselves. If a person falls prey to a too-good-to-be-true subprime mortgage and ends up bankrupt, he or she is not just hurting themselves, they are also hurting society, because that debt inevitably rests with the populace. Thus, while a person has no social responsibility to act a certain way in the case of the email scam, a person does have a social obligation when it comes to actions that can hurt society, such as taking on a subprime mortgage. The counter-argument here is that people perceive banks as possessing a certain level of trustworthiness, and that it is unreasonable to expect people to have their too-good-to-be-true radar active when dealing with banks. Nevertheless, people do have an ethical obligation to be aware of pitfalls, and being told it's okay by trustworthy institutions is simply not a sufficient excuse. Banks have a responsibility to protect their customers and to look out for the general economic health of not just their company, but of the entire industry. The American banks failed in these considerations in each of these regards. First, they offered mortgages to millions of ill-qualified buyers who were clearly not going to be able to fulfill the requirements of the mortgage to make the loans viable. Individual lenders acted selfishly, exploiting very relaxed lending policies to benefit their own finances. Second, banks failed to look after the health of their own companies. This is not a failure of individual bankers, but a failure of those in management positions. Many US companies that need a multi-billion-dollar bailout are an unmitigated disaster. Although this failure falls more in line with the email scam, that is to say, a failure which is not a social failure, but a business failure, The social failure lies in the bank's obligations to the entire industry and the economy as a whole. Each bank is responsible for a small piece of the economic pie. If one bank fails, it appears as a blip on the radar. However, with each individual failure, the threshold for failure for the remaining companies is lowered. It is in this sense that companies have a moral obligation to do good business, because if they do not, they raise the chances of bankruptcy for each of their competitors and the economy as a whole. Eventually, the threshold of failure is so low that almost all lending has to cease, and a recession is ignited. In this investigation of blame placing, arguably the body who holds the most responsibility is the American government. The truth is that if people are not protected from themselves by the government, society cannot function well. The wholly free market is akin to an economic version of Hobbes' state of nature. People acting like tigers and bears, trying to get each other's money. Society does not work optimally when it pays overwhelming dividends for people who act selfishly. It takes regulation in economic policy to force people into acting in society's best interests. One of the duties of a government is to protect its citizens from each other, and in this case the American government has failed catastrophically. Defenders of the free market will claim that this recession is simply a temporary bump in the road for what is arguably the greatest economic power in world history. They will claim that the free market is in the best interests of everyone, despite its rather unsightly undercarriage. In response, it can be argued that the bumps in the road are symptomatic of a system in need of healing by means of regulation. Unfortunately, American culture is such that any regulation is seen as government interference in private affairs, and such intervention conflicts with American ideals. Economics is not the only arena where this belief system is played out. Americans continue to allow their poorest citizens to live without proper health care, and they put the burden of the cost of higher education directly on students. Many European countries fully subsidize higher education. Until this distaste for government intervention is cast aside, events like the subprime mortgage crisis will continue to occur. Whether they are merely bumps on the economic road or signs of forthcoming systemic collapse, in both cases the government has failed to fulfill their role to save the citizens from themselves. In regard to subprime mortgages, regulation of banking is like an insurance policy for the economy. It may lower profits, insurance policies cost money, but it smooths out the bumps in the road. As long as the American government continues to turn a blind eye to these insurance policies, they will continue to put the social well-being of its citizens at risk.
All right. Heavy. No, it's not too bad. If you didn't understand all of it, it's totally okay. One reason why a lot of candidates panic when they're in the reading section is they think they have to understand every single part of the passage to answer the questions and to do a good job, but you really don't, and I'm going to show you that. Even if the reading seems a bit challenging, like this one, it's not as difficult to do as like a college or university level reading exam. So I'm going to show you that, but I'm going to show you that with the help of our members. So members, what I would like you to do is volunteer to read and solve some answers here with me. So go to the website, and when you're logged into the website, go to this student partner speaking right there. And I'm going to connect with you to go over some of the information in this passage, maybe some of the challenging vocabulary, and then also the questions, and just to show you how you can really effectively get the right answers and what strategies you can use. Okay, so log into the website at aehelp.com, go to student partner speaking. By the way, again, while our members are doing that, viewers, if you see this red button in your account, that means you can register for the home version of the IDP IELTS exam directly from our website. And if you want to do a practice speaking interview with me for your IELTS, you can do that by clicking this yellow button in your My Student account at aehelp.com. So right now, let's jump to the student partner speaking. And members, make sure to enable your microphone. If you have questions, if you're not sure what to do, Carolina, I'm sure, can help you in the chat. Okay. So Chayani, I see that you're in here already. Sunantha, you're in here as well. Sanjay, it's good. Romelia, I see that you just joined up and joined in, which is great. So whoever wants to volunteer, just send me a text, send me a message and say, I want to volunteer, let's do this. And then we will get into it, and I will show you some important steps and tips and strategies to really not freak out and not like panic when you see a passage like this and go, and not, be in a position where you want to jump out of the exam room window or something like that. So go ahead and volunteer, and then we'll get into it. Okay, so send me a message. I can see that Sanjay is volunteering. Sanjay, I'm pretty sure you were a member here before. Sanantha, you're a member too. If you're still a member too, just let me know in the chat, send a message and say, hey, I'm still a member. Okay. All right. Sanjay was the first, so let's give Sanjay a chance. Are you ready? Sanjay? Sanjay says no. Okay, fair enough. All right. All right, let's try Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Are you ready? There's a Chayani second variant there. Okay. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, what's up?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, Sarah, so what did you think about this passage when you were reading it?
It's hard. There was lots of words that I was not able to get them, and I tried to Google some.
Okay, so you can't worry about words that you don't know. And of course, in the real IELTS exam, you can't Google them. So the only step available is to understand them as much as possible from context, and then just to ignore them if you really don't understand them. Okay, so, but don't worry about it. You can get a really good score on an IELTS passage, even if you only understand like 60-70% of what's going on. Okay, so you don't have to understand 100% of what's going on. All right, let me kind of show you this step by step. Okay, Sarah, so I'm going to get you to do a bit of reading, and then I will guide you through it. So go ahead and read the title in this first paragraph.
Okay. Causes of the American economic crisis. When discussing the causes of the late 2000s American subprime mortgage crisis, it is easy to lay all the blames on the banks, but it's incorrect to claim innocent to the individual homebuyers involved, as well as the American government as a whole. There are many instances in the years leading up to the crisis where moral obligations failed to be met. For the home buyers, It is a case of ignoring a scenario which was, upon deeper inspection, too good to be true. For the bankers, it was falling prey to their own laissez-faire loaning policies, lending without giving much interest to that. Can you just? Can you just? I'm
moving.
not able to see.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Thank you. Interest to the mandates required of the borrower. For the government, it was instituting such a laissez-faire system in the first place, free of regulator, checks, and balances.
Okay, great. So this paragraph, it is the introduction, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the two most important paragraphs in any passage arguably are the introduction and the conclusion, because the introduction and the conclusion give you the general idea of the passage and the contents of the passage, right? So here,
yes.
As a logical reader, Sarah, we're reading about the causes of the American economic crisis. So clearly the introduction is going to introduce for me the causes of the American economic crisis, right? And I don't have to understand all of these words. So maybe when you're reading this, Sarah, you might not understand the word subprime mortgage crisis, right? Because, subprime mortgage, what is that? We're not economists. Maybe we're not business students, so we don't know what that is. If we don't understand it, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. But we should understand, for instance, who or what entities this paragraph is identifying as creating this economic problem. According to this introductory paragraph, Sarah, who is responsible for the economic problem in the U.S. in the 2000s?
The banks and the home buyers and the American government.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. So you understood that point, right? So you understood here that the author is saying basically there are three entities, three parties that are responsible for this economic crisis: the home buyers, the banks, and the government. Okay. And if you're really thinking critically, you can probably figure out that this subprime mortgage crisis has something to do with buying homes. Okay. So, and that's good. And there's also a French word in here, the laissez-faire. What does that mean, Sarah? Can you tell everybody? Because you know French, of course. So
it's laissez-faire. Laissez-faire, it's like let it be, or it's like that. It's this meaning. Yeah.
Easy going, right? It's like just don't worry about it kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Let it be. Okay. Good. Yeah. So there was this kind of let it be system of don't worry about it. They can't pay for their house, or they can't pay the bank, or the bank can't pay the bank. Yeah, no problem. Not a big deal, right? Okay, so that's the introduction. And as long as a person understands from the introduction that the cause of the economic problem in the US in these late 2000s was the home buyer, the bank, the government, you're on the right track. You're doing absolutely okay. If you don't understand that information, so if you don't understand that, here we're talking about banks, government, people, what should the person do? What do you think the IELTS candidate should do if they haven't figured out this important point that it's banks, people, government?
Maybe rereading the paragraph.
Absolutely. Very smart, very clever, Sarah. Yeah. So very smart. Yeah. When you're doing the IELTS exam, and of course, as I'm talking to Sarah about this and discussing this is for everybody, so these are important tips. You should never just continue reading if you have not understood the main point of the introduction. Okay, that's a super important point. There's just absolutely no way to get a good mark on a reading passage without at least understanding the main point of the introduction. Then it's just going to be more frustrating. You'll get more lost. You'll get more confused. So you have to, even if it means you can't finish the whole passage in the 20 minutes well, you still have to really focus on understanding the introduction and the conclusion, okay? So here's just a quick tip. Don't go anywhere, sir. Just hang in there while I write this up for everybody, okay? So quick tip, if you do not get the main point of the introduction, read it again. And pay special attention to the thesis of the introduction. What is the thesis of the introduction, Sarah? What is the thesis statement of the introduction?
I actually don't know because I'm suffering writing a thesis.
Okay. Well, the thesis is always the main point of the author's argument. It could be one sentence, it could be two sentences, but it's basically the one or two sentences of the author that tell the reader that, hey, this is what I'm going to write about. These are my main ideas that I'm going to discuss in more detail. Okay. We can actually see it here at the end. And it's the author here does it in 3 sentences. Take a look at this here, Sarah. You can see this whole part is the thesis that I just highlighted. Okay. So basically the author says, for the home buyer, it is a case of ignoring a scenario which upon deeper inspection was too good to be true. Okay. And notice here this start. So this is a writing technique. The author says for the home buyer. And then here the author says for the banker. And then here the author says for the government. So this is one style of writing. So he said a specific point. Sorry, one more time, Sarah.
Yeah, I said he set a specific point for each one of them.
Exactly. It's kind of like the author is saying point 1, right? Point 1. Point 1. And then for this one, it's like saying point 2, point 3, right? So I can now imagine if I'm reading carefully enough, and again, I don't have to understand all the words, but if I understand just the start of these sentences, I can see that, okay, this is thesis time. It's point 1, point 2, point 3. And this will also tell me that this body paragraph here is going to most likely talk about point 1. This body paragraph here that's coming up, probably about body paragraph or point number 2. And then the last one here, probably about point number 3, the government. And sure enough, if I look carefully, I can see that that's exactly what happens. So see here, it says for the home buyer, and then the next paragraph, it says if a person falls prey to an email scam, right? Do you see that, Sarah? Do you see what I'm talking about? Notice how point 2, it says for the bankers, and then the next paragraph literally starts with banks have a responsibility. Right? And then the last one, it says...
actually the thesis statement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, finish your idea, Sarah, because you're about to say something very
I said,
smart.
actually this thesis... Yeah, I said the thesis statement is giving us the main point of each paragraph that we are going to be talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. And all good writing will do that. And the IELTS does that for sure. So this is why it's so important to understand the introductory paragraph and especially the thesis, because it will give you clarity on what you're going to read, even if you don't understand all the words or all the information. It's like a roadmap to the ideas and the writing. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, so that's how it works. Sarah, thank you for helping me to show everybody these important points. Keep that in mind. Hang in there, and then help to solve some of these questions later on with some of the other students. Okay, Sarah?
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks for reading, Sarah. All right, that was fantastic. Okay, let's get somebody else in here. So, Baljeet, you're going to help me a little bit here with this reading. Are you ready? Hang in there, everybody. We've got time, so I'm going to get the help of several different students for the reading. And thanks for the thumbs up, everybody, for Sarah. That was great. Okay. All right, Baljeet is ready.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Baljeet. How are you doing?
I am doing great, sir. What about you?
I am also fantastic. I had some chocolate almonds before class this morning at 5:30 a.m. What a great breakfast.
I had coffee, sir.
I'm having that now. Coffee and chocolate. It's a marriage made in heaven, as they say. Baljeet. All right. So we've got some ideas now around this passage. We're not freaking out. We're not panicking anymore. So when you read a passage like this, you should have kind of an overall idea of the passage. And as Sarah pointed out, the cause of the economic crisis in the 2000s, it was about the home buyers, the bankers, the government. Let me ask you a few questions, Baljeet. So why are the home buyers responsible? So what did they do to help kind of collapse the economy? In your own words.
Like they were ignoring some serious cases, like they were not involved in some cases.
All right, well, kind of. Let's get a better idea here. Baljeet, read this paragraph for me. That if a person falls prey to an email scam.
Okay. If a person falls prey to an email scam, the blame is deservedly placed on the helpless person. Society feels pity for them, but nobody feels the government should reimburse the individual for their lack of caution. The person in this scenario has affected no one but himself. If a person falls prey to a too good to be true subprime mortgage and ends up bankrupt, he or she is not just hurting themselves, they are also hurting society because that debt inevitably rests with the populace. Thus, while a person has no social responsibility to act a certain way in the case of the email scam, a person does have a social obligation which, when it comes to actions that can hurt society, such as taking on a subprime mortgage. The counter argument here is that people perceive banks as a possessing a certain level of trustworthiness, and that it is unreasonable to expect people to have their too good to be true radar active when dealing with banks. Nevertheless, people do have an ethical obligation to be aware of pitfalls, and being told it's okay to be by trustworthy institution is simply not a sufficient excuse.
Okay, so I ask you again, Baljeet. Why are these home buyers responsible for this economic situation? Keep it simple.
Like they trusted more the banks.
And what did they do? So they trusted the banks, and what did they do?
They like easily fell prey to the scams.
What was the scam?
Like the banks were giving them loan
For what?
for their homes. Like
Yeah, good. Okay, you're right on track. See, I I often realize that when students are reading these passages, they actually know a lot more than they think they know. Like, sometimes a student will be like, Adrian, I don't understand anything. And then I start asking questions and it's like, oh, no, you understand like 95% of what you just read. You're absolutely on the right track, Baljeet. So they're borrowing money for their homes. And then what happens?
Then they cannot pay it back, so they are not hurting themselves but the society as whole.
Why?
Because they do not pay them back because of they trust.
So who has to pay back? So who has to pay back the banks or the government? All of society, right? If you can't pay it back, somebody has to pay it back, right? It doesn't just poof magically disappear, right? Exactly. So you got it. So that's the main idea. Okay, so now then, let's follow this logic, right? Because the author says that the banks are also to blame. So then why are the banks? Why are we blaming the banks then suddenly? So you said people are to blame because people are borrowing money without, really thinking about, can I pay it back? And that hurts society. And you're correct. Yes. So now we're saying, okay, well, the banks are also have this problem, or they're also helping to cause this problem. Why are the banks causing the problem? What are the banks doing?
Because they are providing some policies, offering policies to people. I think according to the thesis.
Yeah. So just use logic, right? You can use Baljeet. So all you have to do is you just have to use empathy. You have to put yourself into the situation of the banks, right? And you just have to use your own logic. One of the most powerful tools that you have in the IELTS exam is your own logic. And especially when you have a passage that seems really tricky with vocabulary and ideas, then you have to remember that, okay, I'm not going to freak out and start ripping out my hair and screaming and crying, but I'm going to instead just rely on logic. So rely on logic. Use logic. Okay? It is your greatest asset.
Yes.
That's what makes us humans amazing, is our ability for deduction, for logic. And IELTS requires good logic, but it doesn't require as much logic or critical thinking as university classes, so they're not unfair. If I follow this author and this author's thinking, right, and if I say, okay, well, people are borrowing money, then they're not really paying attention to, can I really pay back this $1 million that I just borrowed from the government or not? Then why is the bank responsible? Well, because the bank's giving me the money, right? So the bank is like this hungry wolf that's just offering the money. Ooh, take the money, take the money, take the money, right? And it's like, that's why the bank is at fault, because the bank is loaning money irresponsibly. They're just giving money without really
checking.
Exactly.
Without checking the background of individual, that who are they paying or giving the money.
Exactly, Baljeet. And that's exactly what the next paragraph says. So let's continue with this logic. Why is the government responsible then?
I think governments allowed the banks to release or launch these kinds of policies.
Exactly, right? So that's your final logic, right? Is the government who is supposed to be supervising everybody. They're the ones that are supposed to be telling the banks, hey, wait, whoa, you can't do that. And they're supposed to be telling the people who are borrowing from the bank, saying, oh, guys, be a little bit careful here. You just can't just borrow $1 million without really thinking about, what you're doing here, right? So if we kind of visualize this in another way, you can almost imagine it like there's a younger kid at school and an older kid at school, and the older kid is trying to give money to the younger kid so the younger kid can just keep paying him back. And then there's a school teacher there, that's the government, and they're supposed to be stopping this kind of behavior at the school, but they're not paying attention, right? So you can almost have this kind of visual analogy. Okay.
Yes, sir. Government fits the main headline, then sub-headline of the banks, then the home buyers comes.
Exactly, right? Because it's trust. So we trust in the government the most, technically. Then we trust in the banks, right? And so it's a step step-by-step hierarchy. Absolutely. So, okay, I'm going to get you to help me with this first yes, no, not given question, Baljeet, okay? So yes, no, not given means that the passage says the information, it's yes. If the passage says the opposite of the information, then it's a no. If the passage does not say the information, we don't know what's going on, then it's a not given, right? And the way to figure out yes, no, not given questions is first we have to figure out if the statement is important. If it's important, it's going to be given. If it's given, we can figure out if it's true or if it's false, right? So can you read number 27 for me, please?
Okay, sir. Those that fall for common scams deserve to be compensated by society.
Okay, so is it important here, so this is the logic and this is what we have to ask, is it important to understand the responsibility of society for people? Baljeet, is it important for this passage to understand who society is responsible for when it comes to finances?
I think yes.
Absolutely, because it's an economic crisis, right? Economic crisis is for all of society, okay?
Yes, sir.
Is it true that if a person falls for a common scam, like if I call you and I say, you won $1 million, just give me your bank account number, and then I steal all your money, should society give you that money back because you were like, oh, but I thought I won $1 million?
I think no.
Okay. Right.
Because
Okay.
because I'm responsible for that.
Absolutely. You as the individual, you're responsible for that. So those that fall for common scams deserve to be compensated. Compensated means given back or fixed by society. Is it true or false?
Is it? It is false, sir.
Yeah. So what answer do I put in my paper-based exam?
No, sir.
Exactly. So no. And I mean, if you
I
really...
think there was the writer was talking about like those who fall prey to email scams should be reimbursed by government, I think.
Exactly.
I kind of remember.
Yeah. And that was in the part that you just read. So we
Yes.
know that this one is talking about people. So if we know that it's talking about people, we know that it's the paragraph that's talking about people, and that was the second paragraph here. If a person falls prey to an email scam, the blame is deservedly placed on the hapless person. Society feels pity for them, but nobody feels the government should reimburse. Reimburse is the synonym for compensate.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Okay, Baljeet, thank you for helping, and thank you for assisting me in showing everybody that the main idea is what you have to figure out here. So it's this kind of logic in this system that's important. I appreciate your help, Baljeet.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
All right, bye, Baljeet.
Bye, sir.
Okay, so lots of information there, everybody. But again, step by step. Okay, Romelia, let's see if you're there. Okay, are you ready? Alfred says it's the person's choice. Absolutely. Yep, no compensation, right? We're responsible for our own actions. Okay, Romelia.
Hello.
Hi, Romelia. How are you?
Not bad.
Good, good. Romelia, make sure to mute YouTube so we don't get the double audio.
Oh.
Okay. So, Romelia, are you understanding the main ideas of the passage so far?
Yes. I had some interruption, but I think it's pretty clear.
pretty clear is good enough. Okay, so as long as it's pretty clear, you will be doing okay when it comes to the questions. Romelia, I'm going to get you to help me with some more of these yes, no, not given questions. Okay, can you read number 28 for me, please?
Many homeowners are too young and irresponsible.
Okay, so when you're looking at these yes, no, not given or true, false, not given questions, the first question you always have to ask yourself is this information important for this passage, for the purpose or for the goal of this passage, right? And you want to ask that question specifically. Can you ask the specific question here if it's important?
Doesn't seem to me so relevant.
Okay, so before you answer the question, Romelia, you want to ask the question. I want to show the viewers how to ask the right question. So giving the correct answer to these questions in the reading, it starts with asking the correct question. And the way to ask the correct question is to rephrase the statement in a question form. Let me show you what I mean. So
How the homeowner depicted in the text?
Almost, Romelia. Be even more specific, like this. Is the age of or even more specifically, is the youthfulness, if I want to be very accurate, is the youthfulness of a home purchaser important to know for the purpose of this passage? So if I really wanted to paraphrase this in a question form, this statement, I can do it like this. Okay. So is the youthfulness, the age of the home purchaser important to know for the purpose of this passage? So can you just read that sentence, Romelia, for me?
Is the usefulness of a home purchaser important to know for the purpose of this passage?
Okay, what's your answer to that? Is it important to know?
No.
No, right? Like if the home buyer is 25 or 45 doesn't really matter, right? What matters is that they're borrowing money, right? Okay, so then if we answer no to this question, is it important? No, it's not important. Then what's the answer to the question?
Most probably no.
It's not given, right? The author's not giving this information. So that's how you figure out a not given. You can't figure out a not given by skimming or scanning or searching because obviously it's not given. So you will end up doing a lot of searching, especially if you haven't read the whole passage, right? So the not given type questions are the ones that are really dangerous for people who just try to skim read for answers because they will not find this answer easily. But if you read the passage and you realize that, hey, that doesn't matter, that doesn't make sense for this passage, then you just realize, okay, it's not important, it's not given, and then you go to the next one. Okay, so again, Romelia, I want you to help me with number 29 the same way. So read the statement and then turn it into a specific question.
Society trusts the banking system. Is the banking system reliable from the society perspective?
Very good. Okay, good. That was very nice paraphrasing, right? And if you can't, so if some of our viewers are like, wow, Romelia is awesome, I can't do that, then just keep it simpler, right? So is it true that society, or is it important to know that society trusts the banking system? Is it important to know whether or not the society trusts the banking system for this topic?
Yes.
Absolutely, right? If we don't trust our banking system, that's certainly a recipe for economic disaster, right? Okay, good. So now we know that, okay, yeah, this is important. So when I turn this statement into a question, I can figure out that, okay, it's important, right? So then I go to my second question. Once I know that it's important, I know that it's given, right? So I go to my second question, and my second question is simply asking whether or not it's true. And the trick here is to, again, ask as a full sentence, right? So is it true? So ask the full sentence, ask the full question, Romelia, please.
I didn't get the idea.
Okay, so once you know that it's important, so okay, the first question is like, okay, is it important to know that society has faith in the banking system? Yes, that's important to know. And then the second question that you ask is it true? Is it true that people trust the banks?
Oh, okay. It's my first contact with an IELTS.
No, that's why I'm walking you through it. Absolutely. So this is the question. So just repeat after me. Is it true that people trust the banks?
Is it true that people trust the bank?
Okay, and what's your answer to that, Romelia?
As long as they borrow money, probably.
It's a funny one, right? Because we want to say, no, I hate my bank. It's stealing my money. I don't trust it. But that's not true, right? At the end of the day, people trust the banks, because if we really didn't trust the banks, then we would put our money into our pillowcase like grandma used to do, right? So, but no, yeah. we keep our money in the bank. We all have bank cards. So yeah, even though we hate to admit it, more or less we do trust the banks, right? So then what is the answer to this question?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a yes, right? So society trusts the banking system.
Everyone has a relationship with the bank.
Yeah. I agree. We can get personal and we could talk lots about this. But for the IELTS exam, okay, and this is an important point for everybody. For the IELTS exam, don't get personal. Just stay real, okay? So don't be like, I don't trust the bank, so it's a no. No, it's not you. It's not Adrian. It's not Romelia. I'm sure a lot of us personally would have a few angry words to say about banks. But as society, yeah, we trust the banks. If we didn't, then that'd be obviously a serious problem when that happens, right? So yes, we trust the banks. Okay, good. Romelia, thank you so much for helping me with those two questions. Do you have a better idea now of how to approach these yes, no, not given or true, false, not given questions?
I'm getting more and more familiar. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we figure out if it's important. If it's important, it's given. If it's not important, it's not given. But one of the most important tips that I showed everybody here with the help of Romelia is that you have to ask the full question. So you can't just simply say, is it important? Is it true? That's too simple. You have to ask the full question. You have to say, is it important to know for this passage that society has faith in the banking system? Because when you think about it in the full context, then your brain is much more accurate in giving a good answer, saying like, yes, it is, or no, it's not. Does that make sense, Romelia?
Definitely.
Okay, good. All right, Romelia, thank you so much for that. I'll get some other students to help me for the next bit here, and we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, Romelia?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye. All right, that was Romelia. Thank you, Romelia, for that. Okay. Alfred says, I trust my bank. Sarah says, I have a toxic relationship with my bank. Yeah, I get both of those comments. Okay, everybody. Well, we've got this one more yes, no, not given. So this one, number 30, is home buyers have an ethical obligation to beware of trustworthy institutions. Let's see if you can solve this one with let me see. Okay. Yeah, so let's see if you can solve this one without getting so much of my help. So what do you think, students? I'm not going to give you the answer for this one. I'll challenge you to answer this without my help. So members, what do you think? First of all, is it important? So ask yourself the full question, okay? This will be a group answer here. So we'll see who comes up with the right answers. So home buyers have an ethical obligation to beware of trustworthy institutions. Is that important? What do you think? Yes or no? Is it important to know whether people who buy homes have to be like, I don't know if they're... All right, Baljit says yes. Alfred says yes. Sarah says it is. Okay, so yeah, all of you are in agreement. That's good. Yes, so it's a given. Yeah, I agree with you. It is important. Okay, so the next question here, so question 2 is it true? So is it true that people who buy houses have to be careful of these trustworthy institutions? Okay, so do we have to be careful with the banks? Do we have to be careful with lending institutions? Masala says, no, we don't have to be careful with trustworthy institutions. Does everybody agree with? Yeah, Anirban says yes, the author suggests it. Sarah says yes. Yes, you do. Right? You do have to be careful. Don't just, if somebody says, hey, I will lend you $1 million, don't be like, oh, woohoo. Make sure that you have a plan. You can't just borrow $1 million and think that everything will be okay. Okay. Beware of that big guy with, huge muscles and a strange look on his face in the dark alley that wants to lend you $1 million. By the way, anybody know the English word? Just for fun, here's a little bit of vocabulary. So what is the expression for the person? You can think about them as the gangster who lends people money for, like, let's say gambling. Or for other reasons, but it's not in a non-official way. It's 2 words, and if you like movies and you read a lot in English, you might know the answer to this question. It's not a cheater. So it's a person, it's kind of like a gangster that lends money, and obviously they're not the most trustworthy person, and then you have to give the... Anirban says, is it the Godfather? No. Romelia, very good. It's a loan shark. That's right. That's what they're called. It's called a loan shark. Okay, very nice. Romelia, you get my super vocabulary thumbs up of the day. I just made that up, but it's genuine. You get that super vocabulary thumbs up. Romelia, called a loan shark. That's right. Carolina says, I know the word in Spanish. In English, it's loan shark. It's a loan shark. So be careful of loan sharks. Banks can be loan sharks. All right. Okay, good. So let me get the help of somebody else for these 3 questions here, these completing the sentence endings. Okay. All right. Let me see here. I'm just going to check something here. Okay. Yeah, so let me get the help of another student with this one here. So let's see who we have in here. Alfred, it looks like you're trying to volunteer here. So can you help me? Are you ready? It pays to be a member. Viewers, so if you'd like to join these members chat classes, definitely become a member by clicking the join button. Also hit the subscribe button. We've got a subscribers chat class coming up next. Subscribing is free, and it's a great way to stay informed of all of our live classes. Alfred, if you are there, let me know. Okay, Alfred, awesome. Here we go. Hi, Alfred. I'm guessing you're muting YouTube, so you're not getting too much sound. Mute YouTube, Alfred. Mute YouTube. Okay, I can hear that you picked up, Alfred, but I don't hear your voice. Is your mic all good? Are you there? Sanantha, don't worry. I've got you on my radar. Alfred, I cannot hear you at all. So either you're, well, I hear a little bit of something. So something going on with your microphone, Alfred. Are you figuring that out? I hear static. I hear a bit of feedback. Okay, Alfred, check out your mic, troubleshoot it, figure out what's going on, and then
What about now?
Yes, now I can hear you. I almost gave up on you, Alfred. Last second save. There you go. Good save, Alfred. All right. Okay, Alfred. So let's do a couple of these questions. I'm going to show you what's going on, and then Sanantha, I have you on my radar. Don't freak out. I've got you there, Sanantha. Okay, Alfred. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Tangerang, Indonesia.
Indonesia. Awesome. Okay, Alfred, I am going to show you how to figure out these complete the sentence endings question, and we'll show everybody how to do these ones. So here's the trick, okay? You look at the statement. So here, number 31. And the very first step is to finish it with your own brain, with your own ideas. So here we read, banks have a responsibility to. Okay, can you finish this sentence with your own words?
Okay. Banks have responsibility to tell the customers about the policy that they have.
Yeah, just keep it simple, right? About the policies that they have. Okay, good. So banks have a responsibility to tell customers about the policies that they have. Okay, now, can you complete it another way? A different way?
Bank have responsibility to like keep the privacy of the customers.
Sure. Yeah. So you're on the right track, Alfred. This is exactly what we do. So we complete the sentence, and we can complete it in multiple different ways, right? So you've got two ways. Now, in the real IELTS exam, you want to do as many and as quickly as possible. So banks have a responsibility to, and keep an open mind. So you're thinking about the customers. How about the other two entities? What about banks and government?
Banks also have a responsibility to pay tax to government.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, banks have responsibility to pay taxes and money to the government. How about other banks?
How about other banks? What do you mean about other banks?
Well, I mean, for example, banks have a responsibility to work together with other banks.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Would you agree that
Yes.
happens? Yeah, that happens, right?
Yeah.
Banks borrow from each other, banks borrow from companies, banks borrow from the
Yes.
World Bank, banks borrow from the Bank of the Government, right? So, okay, good. So this is what you do in the IELTS, is you think quickly, you stay calm, you think quickly, you finish the sentence with your own thoughts based on the passage, of course, as quickly as possible in a few different ways, and then you look at the possible choices. Okay, so banks have a responsibility to, and then you read the choices. So let's read these choices, okay? Can you read the choices for me?
A. The breathing room for failure is so low that landing has to stop.
Next one.
Reassure the people that it is okay to borrow money.
Next one.
Instructing the employees to lend to ill-qualified buyers.
Just wait a minute. There's a short lag between YouTube and your screen, so you'll see the next 3 in a few seconds here. Okay, as soon as you see them, you can start reading them.
Okay. They're small part of the big economic picture. And E. Protect the industry they are a part of. And F. The banks have to receive a bailout from the government.
Good. Based on your endings, so based on the endings that we discussed, we have a clear answer here. Which one is it?
F.
The banks have a responsibility. Okay, so let's see if that works. Let me just grab it. So what you want to do, if you think you have the answer, Alfred, is you take that answer. Just don't. Wait. You said F, so just wait. Okay, so we take F and we put it at the end. Okay. So now read 31.
Banks have a responsibility to. Oh, it's not.
Just read it,
not.
Alfred. Read it before you say it's not. Read it.
Banks have a responsibility to the banks have to receive a bailout from the government.
Okay, now you said it's not. Why did you say it's not?
Because I found out that it's not.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't match. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, keep it simple. It doesn't make sense. So what's your second choice then? What are you thinking as well? Maybe that's not it. Maybe there's a better one here. So what's the better one?
Okay. Can you please scroll?
It's coming.
I think. Can you please?
It's coming. It's just a few. There's I think 6 seconds delay.
E. Protect the industry they are part of. I think their responsibility to protect the industry.
Let's plop it in there.
Part of.
Okay, now read it.
Okay. Banks have a responsibility to protect the industry they are part of.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I agree. So the answer then is E, right? Make sure you put E into the sheet. And you go to the next question. So that's how it works, Alfred. Okay. So you read the blank. You give the answer or ending that you think is possible, and give 2, 3, 4 different ones. And then look at the options, see which one matches. This one, by the way, Alfred, protect the industry they are a part of, matches with the banks have a responsibility to protect, or not, we can say protect, but we can make it simpler. We can say to work with other banks, right? Remember that ending? Yes. Work with other banks. Banks have a responsibility to work with other banks. Yeah. So that's the ending that this one matches with when we think about people. So banks have a responsibility to inform their clients, keep their privacy, help them, to pay the government, and to work with other banks. And this one matches this concept of work with other banks. Okay?
Okay.
Does that make sense, Alfred? The logical system of how to figure out these answers quickly and correctly?
Yes. I just know that it needs to be matched from the first sentence and the options. So we need to make sure that it match and makes sense.
Exactly. And the way that you make sure that it makes sense is by thinking about it first on your own. The reason why you were able to figure out that it makes sense is because in your brain you already logically figured out what kinds of ideas should finish that sentence. Does that make sense? You can't do it the other way. Sometimes, Alfred, what happens is students, they don't even think about the answer. They just start searching and they just try to stick everyone in. And the problem is some of them will match. So, for example, banks have a responsibility to, because we had the to here, to reassure the people that it is okay to borrow money. B also makes sense, but B is an incorrect idea. It's not mentioned by the author. In fact, the author says that that's a problem when banks are telling people, yeah, it's okay to borrow money, right? So we didn't say that, right? That's why it's important to think about it on your own first, okay? Just matching is not going to be enough. You have to think about it on your own first, okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, Alfred, thank you for helping me with that. We'll talk again soon, and have an awesome rest of the day. Make sure to hang in there for the class, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Bye, Alfred. All right, everybody. So I hope that makes... Yeah, so Romelia says B makes sense grammatically, but not logically. Exactly, Romelia. All right, Sanantha, where are you? There you are. Okay, are you ready? All right, Sanantha, you're going to help me out here with these next couple questions, okay? Chayani giving thumbs up and maybe even a little bit of own local language booster there. All right, Sanantha.
Hello.
Hi, Sanantha. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. You're almost freaking out there for a bit. You're like, I'm not getting picked.
You press me or upset you? Okay.
I'm just playing with you. Okay, Sanantha, here you are. So you know what you're doing. Let's do this. So can you read number 32 for me and finish it with what you think would be a logical ending to the question or to the statement?
Each bank is responsible for I think for B.
Nope, don't try to choose. That's the big mistake, is if you try to choose the answer without finishing the idea. So you get it wrong, and you actually did get it wrong. So you have to finish it with your own thoughts first. So based on the passage, right? So what is each bank responsible for?
Each bank responsible for their customer.
Okay, good. Each bank is responsible for their customer. Good. Can you finish it another way?
For their commitment and
commitment to what? You have a good idea there. Finish that idea. Commitment to what? So each bank is responsible for their commitment to what or who?
The client, the customer, when the customers make have a commitment or approve on some loan or a big
good. Now here's a tip, Sanantha. Whenever you're dealing with logic of information, especially in the IELTS, and this is true in the writing section, this is true in the speaking section, it's true in the reading section, you want to think micro and macro. So look at the small piece and look at the big piece, right? So the small piece here is the person borrowing the money, right? So each bank is responsible for the client, the small piece. Now, what about the bigger piece? So each bank is responsible for each small piece, the client. How about the bigger piece? What is the bigger piece?
The this bank choose response for economy.
Thank you. Stop there. That's perfect. That's all I was looking for. So here, the very important tip for you, Sanantha, and this isn't just for you, this is for everybody, and it's a very important tip, is throughout the IELTS. Okay, I'm going to write this one up because it's a big one. Okay, so throughout the IELTS, keep an open mind. Think both micro and macro. Does that make sense to you when I say micro and macro?
Yes.
Okay, so like a human, right? Micro, the little cells that make up our bodies. The bigger piece, the organs, the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys. And then the big macro is the whole body, the whole system, right? So always think small, big, 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 because that's the universe, right? Everything exists in tiny and then in big or bigger, right? So the micro and the macro. And when we're analyzing knowledge, any knowledge, then micro macro perception or logic is very important. Okay, so you said each bank is responsible for the client, each bank is responsible for the economy. Sure. Okay, now read the choices.
So low.
Oh, you read them loud. We'd love to hear your voice. Just read them loud, Sanantha.
The breathing room for failure is so low that landing had to stop.
Next one.
Reassure the people that it is okay to borrow money.
Next one.
Instructing their employees to lend to you qualified buyer.
Keep reading. The next three are coming up. Just wait a second. It'll get there. We just got a couple second delay. I think it's 6 seconds.
The small part of big economy picture.
Okay.
Okay, I think the correct answer is the small part of the big economic picture.
Does it match with what you just said, that each bank is responsible for the economy?
Yeah.
It sure does, right? So that's usually a very good sign when you have a good match like that. Okay, so I just stuck it into the end there. Go ahead and read that.
Each bank is responsible for their small parts of the big economic picture.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
Is the grammar good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you choose it, right? So then the answer is D, okay? So very important tip here is micro, macro when you're answering thoughts and ideas, okay? And you'll end up with the right answer. And you always think first on your own, because notice what happened when you just tried to jump to the answer. You chose B and immediately it was wrong, right? So be very careful. That does not work for multiple choice, okay? In multiple choice questions, and this is one kind of multiple choice, there are many different kinds of multiple choice questions and the listening as well. The key for doing a good job on multiple choice questions is use your own thoughts and logic based on the information first. Okay, Sanantha?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for your advice. That's a good idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sanantha, for helping me out with that. And we'll chat later, okay? Don't freak out next time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye. All right, that was Sanantha. All right, everybody, couple more questions to go here. This last one, do it just like how I showed you. Tell me which one is the right answer using this strategy. So a recession is started when? I sure know how to finish that sentence because it's starting to happen in the world today, unfortunately. So answer that, finish that statement, and then choose the correct answer. And I'll give you a hint. It's on the screen. It's either A, B, or C. So a recession is started when? What do you think is the right answer, everyone? For number 33, what is the correct answer? Anirban says, too much lending, when there's too much lending. Yeah, Anirban, I love the way you finished that. It's brilliant. And I love how you shared that with us, that you're like, okay, a recession has started when there's too much lending. So the answer is A, and lending has to stop, right? Yeah, you're all correct. Lovely. It's beautiful to see so many of you getting that answer right. Yes, a recession has started when the breathing room for failure is so low that lending has to stop. People stop lending money. You're right. Okay, members, I've run out of time for the paragraph completion question that you see here, but I'll leave it on the screen for a second. You can look at the video again and look at the paragraph again, and then look at the options to figure out your answers. And then number 40 is the multiple choice. It's this one here. I'll leave this on the screen for a few seconds. Again, these videos are available on the YouTube channel. So solve these questions and answers on your own. Do it as homework. And then send me your answers to my email. Here is my email address again. And I will send you back the answer key. Okay, I will tell you what are the correct answers for that paragraph completion and that last multiple choice. But aside from that, I think you now have a very clear idea of what to do when you get a passage that might seem challenging to begin with, and you get these yes, no, not given, and sentence completion type questions. So first of all, don't panic, don't freak out. You're smarter than you think. It's an ironic sentence, right? You're smarter than you think. But you are. We all are. We're smarter than we think. Our caveman ancestor realized that when they discovered fire, right? Oh, fire's not so scary. I'm smarter than I realized. So we're smarter than we think. Keep that in mind. And definitely to learn more tips and strategies, go to aehelp.com. For those of you who have access to the websites, okay, make sure that on the websites you are using the reading audio that is here. Okay, so when you read, use the audio in the CDs. All right. Again, you can sign up for our premium IELTS course, which is what we use for these live classes, by clicking the big red button that's just there. It's a one-time payment, and it is the textbook, the material for the live classes. So use it. That's it, everybody, for now, but I will be back in 30 minutes with task 2 writing, and I will go through a task 2 question with you step by step, from planning to composition, and showing you how to get those higher band scores. Thank you to all of our volunteers today, Sarah, Baljit, Sanantha, Alfred, and if I missed somebody, then consider yourself mentioned. Romelia, right, you were there as well. So thank you to all of our volunteers. Keep up the good practice, read regularly, use logic, and I'll see you in 30 minutes for some writing. Thank you, Carolina, for moderating and assisting. We'll see you soon. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out for now, and I'll be back shortly. Goodbye.